Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how I go from this to this using a full face of Charlotte Tilbury, including the new Look of Love Instant Look in a palette, as well as the new brow products. So I am starting off with a little eyeshadow primer. Charlotte Tilbury does not make an eyeshadow primer, so I'm having to use this one from P. Louise. But I did already prep my skin with the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream as well as the Magic Eye Rescue. Now, since I want a glowy look, but I'm going to be using a matte foundation, I'm starting with the Hollywood Flawless Filter in the shade 3. This is going to give a beautiful glow to my skin. And you can buff it in with a brush or your fingers. I like to just use my fingers. And up next is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation. I use the shade 5.5 Neutral. So I'm just applying a little bit here, 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 here on my forehead, a little bit on my chin, and now I'm buffing it in with an IT Cosmetics brush. I used to not use the Hollywood Flawless Filter in this manner. I used to only use it as a highlighter. I would just apply it to the tops of my cheekbones. And I honestly don't know what prompted it, but recently I've decided to try it this way, and I love it. I guess I thought I wouldn't because I have oily skin, but as it turns out, I never thought I would say this, but I think my skin is becoming less oily as I get older, as many people said it would. Now, my grandma, when she passed away, was 88, and she had very oily skin. One of my grandmas. My other grandma, thankfully, is still alive at 96. But my dad's mom had very, very oily skin her entire life. So I don't think I'll ever not have oily skin, but maybe it just won't be as excessively oily. Okay, I think this looks really good, and now we're moving on to concealer. Actually, first I am using the Charlotte Tilbury Corrector in shade 2. And I'm just using my finger and patting it onto the darkest parts of my under eyes, which is right here by the side of my nose, and then patting it gently right under here. As I'm doing this, I'm recalling a comment I received this morning on one of my other videos telling me to stop applying my concealer and pressing product into my skin with my middle finger. She said I should be using this finger because it applies less pressure than this one. And I'm not so sure that's true. Well, she actually also said, you're a makeup artist, you should know that. Well, I guess, yes, I have heard that before, but I don't know. I have to do what feels right for me, and this feels right. And now to conceal, I'm using a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Away Concealer. I'm just now realizing, though, that both of mine are empty. Shoot. And I remember now why this is sitting here at my filming area and not in my room by my vanity. It's because I said that I was likely going to be purchasing a new one during the Sephora VIB sale. And I never did. Okay, so this is almost a full face of Charlotte Tilbury. Sorry, what am I going to use instead? I will use this NARS concealer. All right, it's time for brows. I believe in another video I used the new Charlotte Tilbury Brow Cheat pencil, but this time I want to try the Brow Lift pencil. The Brow Lift is very similar to the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Definer or the Hourglass Arch Brow, whereas the Brow Cheat has a smaller angled tip. And I'm using the shade Taupe in this Brow Lift. This is similar to the brow product Charlotte Tilbury used to have. She used to have just the one brow pencil, which I think was also called Brow Cheat. And I have to say, I prefer the other packaging. This looks a little cheap to me, a little flimsy. And I like to start at the front of my brows and draw little hair strokes. Okay, now having used both the brow lift and the brow cheat, I think the brow lift gets the job done faster. And to set my brows, I'm using the new Brow Fix. And apparently this has silk fibers that lift up the brow hairs and sort of fluff them up and makes it look like you have more brow hairs than you do, if that's something you need, like I do. I need my brows to look fuller. All right, brows are done and I think they look pretty good. I think what I am gonna do though is take this brow cheat with its smaller point, fill in these little gaps right through here. Okay, I think it's time to dive into this new Look of Love eyeshadow palette. There were two that launched recently. I purchased mine during the 24-hour, or was it 48-hour, or was it 72-hour pre-sale. And I just purchased the, is it light medium? This one is just called Pretty Blushed Beauty, and it's the lighter of the two Instant Look in a palette from this collection. Looking at it at first glance without using it, I feel like perhaps I should have gotten the darker one, or maybe both of them. I don't know, we'll see. Every shade in here just looks really, really light. So each shade is labeled. This is Brighten, Enhance, Smoke, and then you have a face highlighter, cheek pop. 4 is supposed to be your bronzer, although as I said, it looks pretty light. And then for the first time ever, Charlotte has put her airbrush powder into one of these Instant Look palettes. And I simply adore the Airbrush Flawless Finish powder. I've got 2 of them right here. So I'm gonna take a fluffy brush. This is a Sigma E40, and I'm going to go into the Enhance shade. I'm not gonna use the Brighten just yet. I'm just gonna use the Enhance and put this all over my lid. It's very light, but it is giving me just some nice subtle definition. And the whole point of the Instant Look in a palette is to be able to do your makeup very, very quickly. So I'm not doing anything too crazy or time consuming on the eyes. I'm going to also run that shade along my lower lash lines. Now using a smaller crease brush, I am going into the Smoke shade. And I'm applying that in circular motions to the outer corners of my eyes. And because my eyes are more downturned at the ends, I like to lift up my eye. And I'm sure I'm going to get comments about tugging on my eye. Well, you know what? I am going to be 48 years old in a couple of weeks, and sometimes I need to lift things because they're falling down. So if you don't want to do this to your own eyes, if you don't want to just gently pull up, then you don't have to, but I'm doing it. And then I'm going to bring this just a little bit through the socket, just with what's ever left on the brush. And then I'm doing the same thing that I did with the Enhanced shade, taking that Smoke shade and applying that right along my lower lash lines. I like this. I think it's just enough for an everyday daytime look, but I've got to demo the entire palette. So I'm going to be using my finger and patting the Brighten shade just in the center of my eye. Ooh, I like that. And you know what? I think I'm going to pop that on my inner corners as well. Ooh, this is a very soft eyeshadow. So when I put my pencil brush in there, it sort of dented it in. So I'm not so sure that this is the best type of brush to go into that shimmer with. Now to finish off the eyes, I'm using a product I haven't used in a long time. In fact, I don't know if I've ever used this product in a video. This is the Feline Flick. This is Charlotte Tilbury's liquid eyeliner, and I am using the shade Super Brown. I don't feel like a really harsh black winged liner goes with this look, so that's why I chose this brown. And now for my lower inner rims, I am using the Rock and Kohl Eye Cheat pencil. This type of off-white shade instantly brightens and opens up your eyes. Now I'm going to curl my lashes and apply the Pillow Talk Push Up Mascara. Now I love to use my Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder to set my under eye concealer. So I'm going to use the one that's in the palette for my under eyes, and then I'm going to use my separate shade 2 for the rest of my face. I'm just using a clean, fluffy brush for this. Actually, it seems like this is more like shade 2 than shade 1. Let's see, here's shade 1. And here's what's in the palette. So here's shade 1. Here's what's in the palette. Now let's swatch shade 2. The face powder in the palette is darker than both of these. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? This is the one in the palette. This is 1 and this is 2. Interesting. The powder in this palette is more yellow. I'm not sure if I like that. I feel like I'm seeing that little yellow tinge underneath my eyes. So I'm going in with my separate shade 1 and going over that. What I will use that for instead is probably just as an overall eyeshadow, or when I want to just blend out the top of my shadow. It's a great thing to have for that. But you know, I will try setting my face with it. I don't mind a little yellow on the rest of my face because it counteracts any redness, but I don't know. That surprised me. I thought it would be the same. Now it doesn't say on the box that it's the same. It doesn't have a shade name. It just says Airbrush Powder. All right, moving on to bronzer. Let's see if this one will work for my skin tone. I am going to use this BK Beauty Brush 108. Normally I would use a fluffier brush for bronzer, but because this is such a small area to work with, I think it'll be more difficult to pick up and not pick up the highlight and the blush with it. So that's why I'm using the smaller brush. And it's a little lighter than what I typically use, but I think it's pretty. I think it's working out. And I think this will be a great option for someone with really light skin. And hopefully the darker one will be dark enough for deep skin tones. I still say that Charlotte Tilbury should come out with 3 of these palettes instead of 2. A fair light, a medium, and then a deep dark. That's just my opinion. It does make a nice nose contour. It's not too golden. I don't like an orangey nose contour, but who does? All right, it's time for the Cheek Pop shade. Ooh, that's pretty. It has a slight sheen to it. And now I'm going into the face highlight. Also very pretty. So overall, I've got to say, I think this is probably a perfect bridal palette. If you're getting married this summer and you want to do your own makeup and you have fair to light skin, I would definitely check this out. And now I'm really bummed that I didn't purchase the darker one as well. I know a lot of you like to see the finished eye look without false lashes, so here it is. But I am going to be applying these very natural looking falsies. These are the Ardell Faux Mink in 817. They are extremely natural looking and great for small hooded eyes. One more thing I'm gonna do with my eyes is I'm gonna run a little bit of the blush through the upper portion of my crease, just to tie the whole look together. All right, let's do some lips. This is a shade from Charlotte Tilbury called Mrs. Kisses that came out, I want to say at least 6 months ago, maybe longer than that. And she's re-releasing it with this Look of Love collection. So I purchased mine the first time it was available, but you will be able to purchase the shade again if you like it. I am going to be using the lip liner in, I think I'm going to use Hot Gossip to line my lips. So now I'm just patting on Mrs. Kisses. And then I'm going to take my finger and blend it out. Now, of course, you can leave it like this, but I want to add a little bit of gloss because I just purchased this recently and I want to try it out. This is the Champagne Diamonds lip gloss. All right, this is the finished look, and I have to say I really, really love it. I do recommend this palette if you are looking to maybe invest in your first Charlotte Tilbury product and you want a lot of bang for your buck. This is a beautiful color story. As I said at the beginning, at first glance, I thought it would be a little bit too light for my skin tone, and to be honest with you, it didn't take my breath away, but it is a very good quality, practical palette. My only complaint is that I wish this face powder were identical to either shade 1 of the Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder or shade 2, at least in this lighter of the 2 available Look of Love palettes. I'm so sorry I do not have the darker palette to compare it to for you, but if you have a skin tone similar to mine, I think you're gonna do well with this lighter one. The brow products I think are great. Are they vastly different than anything else out there on the market? Not really. The brow fix is, to me, just okay. It's not bad, it works well, but there are other things on the market that I think work just as well. I recently did a video about products that I reach for over high end, and one of those things was a sadly discontinued Maybelline fiber brow product, and I still would reach for that over this. Speaking of products that I think are just okay, the liquid eyeliner, just okay. As far as the lipstick, lip liner, and gloss, I love it. I love the combo. It's definitely perfect for a bride, which I think is what this whole collection was about. It's for the upcoming bridal season, but even if you're not a bride, it's been almost 21 years since I was a bride, I still plan to reach for this palette a lot. So as always, I really hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial and hearing my thoughts on the Charlotte Tilbury products. I do have a playlist for all of my one brand tutorials that I will link in the description box. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and join the Risa Does Makeup family. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under the username Risa Does Makeup. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.